Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Shit's about to hit the fan. Welcome to Unsanctioned Thursdays on Wrestling with Freddie.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Unsanctioned Thursdays. I'm your host, Freddie Prinze Jr. Let's talk wrestling. Okay, as you guys know, I've brought you on the journey as much as I can on starting my own wrestling promotion. And I'm much closer to the finish line than the start line, and I'm much closer to a yes than a no, although a no can still happen and my dream can be crushed. And if it doesn't work with this place, then that'll be it for at least this year, and I'll have to reset and find another way to try and make it work down the road. I already got a yes from a wonderful place, from the head of their network. So you're like, oh yeah, it's done. Not quite. They are a subsidiary of a much larger company, studio, and they need to get a yes from one of the head honchos in their finance department to get the amount of money that I need to pull this off. So if that person says yes, then I have a wrestling promotion, and I should know by the end of the week. So if you're listening to this on Thursday, by Friday, I think I'm going to have a yes or a no. So maybe next week I'll get to announce either great success or tragic failure, and we'll see. I promise to take you guys on the journey with it. And once the process is over, I'm more than willing to talk about all the places that I went to, how I felt about it, and I'll be able to talk more about the promotion and what it is and how we're going to pull it off and what kind of light and style. But anyway, that's your update. Wrestling's awesome. And here we go. There's the episode, you guys. A lot of people have questions. A lot of fans of wrestling have questions on how an actual episode of wrestling television takes place from start to finish. And so I thought we'd sort of break that down, since I worked there for a couple of years, and give you my knowledge of at least how it worked then. And I'm pretty sure it's damn close to working that way now. It's a solid process when it isn't getting screwed up. If they would just stay the course with the way it was set up, I think a lot of storylines back in the day would have been received much better than they were, because we change a lot of stuff on the day. So here we go, guys. How does the process begin? So there's a head of each show, SmackDown and Raw. When I worked there, the head of SmackDown was Michael P.S. Hayes, pure sexy. And the head of Monday Night Raw was Brian Gewirtz. And they both had a staff of writers underneath them. And Michael wasn't a writer. He would just do the booking, give reasons why, and have this dude named Chris DeJoseph basically function as the head writer. And then Chris would delegate segments and stories to all the other writers and send everyone off to do their best. They would bring everything back to him. He would rewrite what he felt needed rewriting. We would write the whole show and turn it in. However, before all that happens, you'd have to have the story, whether it be a TV story that ends on TV or a TV story that ends at pay-per-view. The ones that were ended on TV is where all the young writers start. That's where they started me. You didn't get to have pay-per-views. And you basically would write 4 weeks of TV and the story would be over in a month. That would be like the basic. The short ones would be 3 weeks. If you didn't want those, everybody wanted a long-term one. If the story worked, it would just keep going and going and going. But the 4-week one was the standard one. So you would say the final match is going to be Dolph Ziggler goes over, who else was there back then? Goes over MVP on the go-home show to SummerSlam, and it's the main event. That's your pitch. I want the main event to be Dolph Ziggler versus MVP, with Dolph Ziggler going over clean. So you would then work backwards from that 3 weeks. How will we get there? The most basic format would be Dolph Ziggler's in a match. MVP interrupts the match, comes out to commentary, is talking trash, distracts Ziggler. Ziggler gets pissed, smacks him. They get in a fight. MVP costs him the match somehow, right? The next week, Ziggler wants payback. He comes out. He screws MVP over. MVP loses his match. Well, now they got to fight in the third week, right? Yeah, they do. We get him in the ring. They start the match. The match goes outside the ring. We don't get a finish because these buttholes kept fighting out in the crowd, and it's a no decision. And now what are we going to do? We got to keep them contained. We're going to put them in a steel cage on Friday Night SmackDown right before SummerSlam. So there has to be a finish. No one can get out. It can't go in the crowd. There's no count out. None of that bull crap. We're going to get a finish. That's my big pitch. What do you think, Michael? Well, I think it sucks, Freddie, personally. That's probably what he would say. He would be right. But let's say he goes, well, I think we're going to take it to the script and then we'll take it to the boss, see what happens. And so that would make the script, and you would write the promos. I would write all the promos for my story. I was good at that. I could write those quick. I would write all my promos and the whole story basically in my 4-week pitch. And so they were already done, and I was able to help other people out on their shit. But once it's in the script, Friday Night SmackDown, when I got there, never got read until the morning of, man. It was so disrespectful to everyone that put in the work on that, to the wrestlers, to the writers, to Freebird, to everybody, man. It was just like, really? You didn't have 30 minutes to give us notes when we turned it in on a Thursday. We would record them on Tuesdays back then. So they had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday to pull it off. Monday's a dead day because that's Monday Night Raw. But you got time, right? No, never. So it would get read on the plane, on the way, and then in the production meeting, we would have to rewrite the entire script basically every single week, which is why I always wanted to work on Monday Night Raw, because it was the only show they gave a shit about back then. So eventually, you get pay-per-view stories. I had written some stuff that people liked. I had written a promo for The Undertaker that people liked, and Freebird came to me and he said, Freddie, I want you and DJ to try and make Jeff Hardy champion. I think now's the time. His merch is selling higher than anyone in the company. Merch was a big deciding factor in this idea getting over. And so DJ said, I'll do the matches, you do the promos, and let's knock this shit out. DJ loved Jeff. I said, okay, I got you, man. And so I had talked on the Wednesday show about the CM Punk promo being very black and white. The straight edge lifestyle is a black and white lifestyle. There's not much room for gray. Unfortunately, in life, the gray area is much larger than the black or white. With Jeff, I thought a great representation of his promo would be only the gray area. He would be vulnerable. He would be open. He would be honest, and he would be ashamed and proud at the same time. And so each promo was about his struggle with addiction, the struggle of being an artist, the struggle of being misunderstood, the struggle of being labeled. The struggle was the story for Jeff Hardy. And I wrote this in every promo for him all the way. And this was, I think, 2 months, I think was the buildup that we got. I would write this out, weeks in advance so that talent had time with the promos. The more time you have, the better you can be, because you can get more confident with the material. And Jeff would rewrite things and fix things so that it sounded more natural for him. He would throw in those things like the imagination and stuff like that. So it's whatever he needs to get the promo over. It's not like, hey, you have to say it the way I say it. TV writers are like that in Hollywood. And sometimes you're like, dude, I can help you. Like, let me say it my way. It's going to come off better. It makes you look better. Sometimes you win the fight and sometimes it's a fight. In wrestling, you want the talent to have their own spin on it. So he did great with it. He kicked ass. And I think it was like 2 months, a lot of arguments, man. A lot of, are we really doing this? And then Vince saying, yes, we are. And then sort of seeing this through. And the fact that they saw it through and didn't rewrite us every week was one of the reasons that was probably the best storyline. A lot of people remember the Jeff Hardy storyline. It had to have been one of the best ones in my 2-year stint there, just because it connected and resonated with so many people, because Jeff was able to connect and resonate with so many people. We've said this before. I'll say it again. The sole responsibility of getting over is on the talent. We're just there to help. We're a safety net. We're an asset. We're a tool that they can use that's there at their disposal if they need it. If they don't, party on. But it's their responsibility to get over. They're the only one that can do it, no matter who writes for them. So for Jeff to pull that off was just such high level stuff, and he had to be there for it, and he was. So hopefully that explains, that's the long-winded version to question number 1. Moving on, how many people are involved in the process of writing a single episode of Raw or SmackDown? Well, I guess it depends on the size of the writer's room. Probably anywhere from 5 to 15 people are responsible for a single episode. Again, depending on the size of the room. It's ours. You got to give me a break because it was a long time ago. I think ours was like 9. I think there were about 9 of us there, maybe 12, something like that. On the SmackDown side, Raw probably had like 7 to 9, something like that. I can't remember 100%. Brian wrote a lot of Raw, so they had a smaller writer's room than SmackDown. Another question. Do you automatically start writing the episode after one ends, or does it take a couple of days? For me, I could write a whole episode of SmackDown in one night. That wasn't hard for me. I would try to write them as soon as the episode ended. Like, we would get it outlined the next day, and then Wednesday we would write the whole episode, DJ and I, and other people would contribute too, and then DJ would have me rewrite stuff. And then Thursday we would turn in the draft. So basically from Tuesday night to Thursday morning. So you had 2.5 days to get the episode written and turned in. But if you sat down, you could write the whole thing in like 2 hours. Are the storylines handpicked from a bucket of stories, or are they made up on the spot? It's different every time. Sometimes it's a wrestler's idea and it gets stolen, because the company does that all the time. I think Elias just talked about his Monday Night Messiah character getting hijacked and given to Seth Rollins. It happened when I worked there, storylines that they liked. They killed our Kofi Kingston gauntlet match to the IC title when I worked there, and then resurrected it years later and had him become the WWE champion. But it was the exact same story that we wrote back in the day. So there's a million different ways that storylines get chosen. How many rewrites happen leading up to the live show? It's one rewrite, and it sucks because it's usually the day of. That was the least creative part of the process, was the rewrite. If they just read the scripts, at least when I worked there, I'm sure it's different now. Hunter's probably way more hands-on in the early steps of the process. It was brutal because all of a sudden you're given talent sometimes as little as 20 minutes to learn a 2-page promo. It was just too big an ask for anyone, even for professional improv artists. Like, it's not how they did Saturday Night Live. It's not how they do any other form of television in the world. Reality TV is more rehearsed than the rehearsal time given to professional wrestlers. So that was the most challenging part. Who has the final say on a storyline, the wrestler or the writer? Oh man, that's a pretty good question. I guess when I worked there, depending on where you were at in the company, the wrestler had the final say. Vince had final say. Let me start with that. Vince had final say, and Kevin Dunn. But if a wrestler really didn't want to be in a storyline, they could say, yo, I don't want to do this. And they wouldn't do it. Now, if the company liked the story, they would give it to someone else, and they would remember that. And that wrestler, if they weren't at a high level, may not get another story for a while. I mean, there was pettiness in the company for sure. There's pettiness there's bankers that are petty as fuck. But yeah, the wrestler had the final say, at least when I worked there. Now, those were the wrestlers at the high level that wouldn't be sort of penalized for that. But if you were like a mid-card guy rejecting a storyline, there was for sure a risk that the higher ups would be like, who does he think he is doing that? What advice do you give someone listening to this right now who wants to become a writer in professional wrestling or beyond? Okay, if you want to be a writer in professional wrestling, you can submit a writing sample and a resume to WWE to this day at their office on their email, and they will take it, they will read it, and if they like what you write, you will get an opportunity and you will get a shot. First thing I'll say is good luck. The second thing I'll say is have a lot of shit written already. The 5th script you write is going to be 5 times better than the first script you write. I promise. The first script you write, you're going to think it's great. You're going to think it's the one, and no one's going to buy it. And it's not going to be as good as you think. And by the time you write your 5th script and look back at that, you're going to go, oh man, there's so much I would change. And maybe you do. Maybe you do go back and change it. But every writer I know goes back and looks at their old stuff and go, yeah, it was good, but man, I know why it didn't sell, because you get experience. So to be a successful writer out here, the first thing I would say is write your ass off. Write. If you have an idea for a TV series, write the whole series. I'm not joking. Make it 8 episodes if that's too much for you. 8 episodes at 52 pages an episode. Every time you finish a 1 hour, or maybe you want a half hour, but a 52-page script is usually an hour-long show. Write out 8 episodes. Plan it out. Outline it. Once you outline your beginning, middle, and end, then you start outlining each episode. What are the scenes going to be? What's the obstacle that the protagonist is going to face, and what kind of person is the protagonist. Are they the kind of person that goes over the obstacle? Do they crush through the obstacle? Are they good with words? Do they work their way around the obstacle? Or are they a coward? Are they Falstaff? Are they Shaggy and Scooby? Do they run away from the obstacle? All these types of things will help you break down these scenes so that when it comes time to script them, it's already there. All you're doing is writing dialogue. All you're doing is coming up with cool names for characters like Jeremiah, Jericho. What other cool names exist that would be in writer scripts that we would go, God, I'd never name my kid that. Anyway, you see what I'm saying? So that would be the advice I give, but you need a lot of friggin' luck, man. You need a lot of friggin' luck. And luck is, my godfather used to say this, and I don't agree with everything he said, but I agree with this. He said, luck is a combination. It's a combination of being ready when opportunity comes. So that means preparedness. That means practice. That means write a shitload of scripts before you think you're ready. Get experience, send them to people, get their opinion, consider their opinion, agree, disagree. If you agree, make changes. If you disagree, just think about it. But be prepared when opportunity comes, and people will call you lucky your entire life. You guys, thank you for listening. I appreciate y'all. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next Wednesday. On behalf of Jeff Dye, I'm Freddie Prinze Jr. Peace.
This has been a production of iHeart's My Cultura podcast network. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.